You mentioned to Vinny about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain having an operation. What was the nature of that, and is there a time scale?
It's a previous one, Paul. Sorry, that's referring to the previous op in terms of coming back from those. Not.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. I should
Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, Chris Bascom. Oh, you're on mute, Chris.
Yeah, I always get that wrong, don't I, with the mute? Sorry.
You're in that.
Just on Curtis again there, Pep. I mean, how do you sort of get the balance? I mean, you can just see his desire to be almost in the team straight away. He said that in a few interviews, but his development has been quite outstanding, really. You see a difference over the summer. How do you get that way up, that balance of making him patient and realising his time's going to come? And
I think the biggest strength of this squad is that everybody respects each other's role, and that everybody, even if you're a starter or somebody who comes on, that everybody knows the importance of each one. So the character in this group is outstanding, and that helps, of course, because even if you're not starting always, each member of staff, each player really respects you and know how important you are. One of the Gaf always says it's like a banana slip. Banana skin is that a young player wants to go too early, too soon to that. And I think the way we balances it and the way we give on the right moments, on the right timings with the right players around the opportunities, that creates unbelievable processes. What we saw last year, and Curtis is a good example of that. Yeah.
Okay, Chris, good. We go to the other Chris, which is Chris McKenna.
Hi, Pep. The manager often says it's not his job to keep players maybe some of the players that will feature tomorrow happy in the squad, and they just have to kind of deal. Is that more something you look to do as the coach, and are you kind of take on that role? And what do you look for in games like this where you think these players are ready to play in maybe the Premier League games or the bigger Champions League games?
Yeah, but it's the environment we all create at this moment, like from our canteen, from our medical, everybody feels 100% appreciated, and everybody feels everybody wants to help each player in this. So you don't have a difference between a young talent of 17 who comes in here or a player who's already established, like a 33-year-old player. And this is a very healthy environment, I think, that there's no differences between players. If you're starting or not, everybody gets the same treatment and the same attention. That was the word I was searching for. And that makes it healthy, and that makes it... and I think especially last year, I think we're using the squad really well by using rotation, but at the same time keeping our collectiveness. So everybody feels needed, and that's really important. That's why we always said we don't want a big squad with loads of players. Everybody should be constantly in the feeling that they are needed, and they are needed. If you look closely over this last year.
And then I think the last one is going to be Dave Mann, because it stands with the hand up. Yeah. Dave, over to you. Meant to finish.
Pep, hi. You've actually been responsible for creating sort of pathways from the youth sides into the first team squad, and because of that, there seem to be so many more young players on the verge of the first team. But how do they take that step? Because it seems such a big step to get to the verge of the first team and into the team. And Ryan Bruce is a good example, because now it seems that we're looking that he may have to go away and come back, possibly, as he did on loan last season. And yet he's a great talent. And you think, how do these talents become the world-class talent that you need?
Yeah, compliment to our academy, all the staff who work there. Compliment for the recruitment in the academy, who takes all these scouts boys, but also talent from around to our club. Big compliment to the players itself, because what I said, the boys we have in the academy, they have big heart. It's unbelievable. When I came from Porto to Liverpool, they have the quality to make each training session like a final. It was something in Portugal was good, but in Liverpool it was excellent, was unbelievable. So, and then if you want to bring players through it, the most important thing that there's hope. You can coach really well, you can do things, everything right. But if the first team staff doesn't create hope for the young players who are in the academy, then it becomes really difficult. Think about yourself in the pathway. If you see somebody who made it, say Trent or Curtis or that gives indirect influence to all these young boys in the academy, because they see the pathway. And then it's important that we give them the trust as a first team staff to get them early with us. So not when they are 21, 22, 23, but that when they're 16, 17, 18 and proper talents, that they're already training with us, that they feel that the style of play is not new, that that relationship is there between the academy and the first team, that they don't have to play in a different way, that counter-pressing, for example, is completely natural already. And all these small things will help the players to establish themselves into the squad. The most important thing is Jurgen, who gives this hope to the players and gives this trust to the young players. And that relationship is key in terms of development. And we saw that, yeah.
But I just sorry, Dave. Sorry, Dave. You have to unmute yourself again. My fault. Trigger happy. There we go.
Yeah. Just using the example of Ryan Brewster, he's clearly a huge talent, and yet he's not. I mean, he's been on the fringe of the squad, but he's not quite managed to push in. So, how do you ensure that players like him actually can make that final step, which is I mean, obviously the standard is so high, it's world class standard. How do you somehow, get the likes of Brewster to that level? You see what I mean? To be world class. So I mean, Alexander Arnold has done it, but there are Jones and maybe Brewster are the others.
Step by step, focusing on the small things and creating space in the squad. That's the main thing. Nobody thought Trent Alexander-Arnold 3 years ago, 4 years ago would have been in this position as most talented player in English football as a right defender, winning that award, example. So it means that trust them in good periods and bad periods. We know exactly what we can expect from each single one of them. In the difficult times, really show faith and give chances again. And that's what happens if you're with us, if you commit to our team and to our staff. So we will not give up on players easily. But the most important thing is to create space in the squad. So instead of having, example, we buy a second right defender, we have Nico Williams. Instead of having a right midfielder buying, we have Curtis Jones, if that makes sense. So we create space in the squad, then they are part of the 20, or depending on which competition we play, because in the Champions League we can have 23, but in the Premier League 18. What I'm trying to say is that if you're in the squad, you will get game time, you will develop. Yeah.
Just to finish with Chris Baskin, last question, then Chris, coming back to you.
Sorry, just coming back. Just Pep, you mentioned about Nico, and I was just wondering. I know you said about taking praise and criticism, but it wasn't criticism with Nico; it was abuse. And I just wonder, for a young player, you think it'd be better to just not go on Twitter or social media now, because you can't have any control of that.
It's not for me to comment on social media. The only thing what I can say, abuse is wrong. Through social media on the street, it's wrong. Second, you're not a Liverpool supporter if you don't support.
Okay. Chris, any come back to that, or you go?
Well, I suppose I would just say, did Jurgen feel particularly it was important to speak to Nico last week? Was that a particular moment to speak to him? Was he particularly down, or was that something that happened earlier? Or? Yeah,
because in difficult times, you need if you say that you are a family and you're together, and the most important thing in difficult times, when people say things that are not right, or when it's not not in the right context or however, then they need to feel full faith. So sometimes you don't need words because the feeling already with the people around. But what's much more important is that Trent spoke with him, Virgil spoke with him, Robbo spoke with him. So it's not only the Jurgen or me or that, it's how we take care of each other, and that's what makes us different.